Well, tonight there will not be a real sermon or homily. I thought I'll try out a different approach, one that will remain the exception rather than the rule, namely to look at some nice photos, reflect on what they convey, and draw a connection with faith in God. So I'll only faintly reference our reading in the sense that they compare our life with a way, a path that we're on, and that they talk about profound changes in life through interaction with God. So considering the photos that I do have on file, I wondered what a good overarching topic I might use. And so tonight I settled on the exploration of passes, the low point between mountains that allows the easiest access between valleys, which for centuries have allowed connections across formidable barriers. In modern language, they would be called liminal places, the threshold place in between. So I'll start with the Lötschberg Pass in Switzerland, a pass that has been used for centuries to connect southern and northern Europe, an important way to get across the Alps. There are still a few old bridges to indicate the importance of that pass for centuries. In 1913, the Lötschberg railway tunnel was opened, which provided a faster connection between north and south. This is over 14 kilometers long and still used today. In 2007, the Lötschberg base tunnel was opened, which provides a faster railway connection. It is over 34 kilometers long. Well, but back to the Lötschberg Pass. Today, it is still accessible for trampers. It partly goes along old roads that follows rivers deep into high mountain valleys. The mountainside rises on all sides with water thundering across and out of the rocky faces. Here, indeed, the mountains seem quite threatening. And then the steep climb up the mountain begins. I did this journey on a cloudy day. After gaining in altitude, the track drops again and passes across a glacier. This is an ice expanse covered with rocks. Every spring, new markers are inserted in the ice to lead walkers across the glacier. In the clouds, when I walked across it, these markers were essential. As the last marker was lost out of view, I had to walk straight until I could discern the next marker in the mist. It was disorientating when I could not see a marker, when the track seemed to have disappeared and I did not know where I was. Of course, in our own lives, we often encounter such disorientation when we don't know whether we are still on the right track, when we move forward with trepidation, when there are only few markers that give us assurance. And then the track makes its way steeply through the mountain landscape, and finally in the mist there appeared a cross. I had made it to the pass. The cross gave me assurance and reminded me that Christ is with me on this journey. This pass was the crucial place between north and south, where I passed from one valley to the next, but also from one cultural sphere to the next. Do we feel Christ's presence at those times when we pass over to a new landscape of our lives? One of the first markers of a different countryside that I met were the animals. Here in the southern valleys, there were sheep, not cows. What's even more, they were a breed of sheep that I had never seen before. You can see it in Willowbank these days, the valley sheep, with its characteristic black face and woolly body. Once I saw them, I knew that I had entered a different valley, a different cultural sphere. What is it that we notice that something different has happened, that we are in a different sphere of life in our journey? And when do we begin to notice the differences? And do we recognize that God has been with us on the path? As I descended the mountainside, the valley came into view with its villages. I was coming into inhabited places again and left the high mountains behind. But now I was in a new place. Just like mountain passes may also have these watershed moments when we pass from one certainty to a new settledness. One more pass I want to mention in Switzerland, the Morgete Pass, probably best translated as Morning Pass. It was never a major connection between north and south, but rather just between the Gantrisch Highlands and the Simmental Valley, another famous cow breed there. The way to the Morgete Pass is quite obvious, and the low point between the mountains visible from afar. When I walked there, I had to trudge through some snow, making for a tiring section up to the pass. Maybe in our own lives, even though the direction seems clear, at times we encounter obstacles which we have to traverse. The Morgete Pass itself is actually a quite narrow opening in the low ridge between the mountains. In the olden days, it would have been said that it could have been defended by one man as rocks rise either side. In actual fact, the Morgete Pass was not just a way for farmers and walkers to get to the next valley. The Swiss did see it as a possible strategic connection. And so when you explore the surrounding rocks carefully, you'll notice that it's not just rocks rising above the pass, but also defensive positions. It was recognized that these passes were vulnerable places. In our own life, can we see our own vulnerability in these threshold places when we pass from one experience to the next? And who do we turn to in our vulnerability? Is God our rock and our fortress? As I came down into the valley, I noticed the marmots running around on mountain meadows. In their playfulness, they provided a joy on the way, reminding me that the journey can have unexpected delights, which we can enjoy and be thankful for. Well, I could say more about the walk across that pass, but I think I'll move on. And so I'll also show some pictures of a classic tramp in the Southern Alps, which is called the Three Passes tramp, because it goes across three high alpine passes and one saddle, by the way, and it's normally a 4 to 5 day walk. We walked it from the west coast to Canterbury, from near Hokitika to Klondike Corner near the Beeley Hotel. The trek goes through the lush west coast bush and alongside the strong flowing rivers. Even when it isn't raining, the forest seems moist. Styx Saddle between the Styx River and the Arahura River is soggy and muddy. We got stuck along the way. The going was quite hard. How come that the lowest transition point, a mere saddle, had these hidden difficulties? Often in our own lives, easy transition points have hidden difficulties. Do we get the help to move through these? And how do we recognize that the things that can mire us down? The trek steadily goes upwards high above the Arahura River, gradually gaining altitude. It is well cut, and as long as we kept walking, it was easy to follow. In the upper reaches, the trek got steeper, the valley narrow, as we walked close to the tributary of the river. And then the trek opens to the wide expanse of Lake Browning, a small lake surrounded by majestic mountains, but in its flatness somewhat odd so high. Still, it's a beautiful place, an unexpected joy. We did not no longer think of the pass ahead, but with light step followed the poles and cairns along the lake. At the other end of the lake, a totally new view opened up to the Wilberforce Valley far below us. It's an amazing view, but then we got concerned about where the trek leads on. There were no further cairns or poles. The trek just seemed to lose itself. And going straight down there, well, that was just too steep and furthermore cut off by a hard frozen band of snow. But after consulting the map again and again and again and searching around, it became clear that this was the way, straight down. So I took my ice axe and cut steps into the snow. Then I went up again, gave the ice axe to my sister for stability, and after putting on the packs, we made our way down the snow. A small slip brought some excitement, and then we made our way down the ski slopes to the valley below. We made our way across Browning Pass. So after a night's sleep, we realized that the steep slopes were not over yet. The next pass ahead was the Whitehorn Pass, which we reached underneath the high Cronin Glacier. We walked first along a stream and then up steep ski slopes. Nearly crawling using hands and feet, we climbed the slopes where every step was an effort. This pass was a hard-won transition point. But then once we were on the pass, it was a gentle walk down the snowy valley. This is the view back to the pass. Walking along the gentle snowfields was easy, and we made it nearly at running pace. And then we came to Harmon Pass, the definitive pass from the west to the east of the island. And the pass actually was hardly noticeable because we approached it from above, from the far higher Whitehorn Pass. I wonder whether at times transition points don't feel as significant because we have already faced far more difficult points before. We went into the narrow gorge of the Taipuiti River as we approached the Waimakariri watershed. Walls rose around us, and the many times that we had to cross the small river gave us thoroughly cold feet. As we left the gorge, we faced a far bigger river, and here a cableway aids the traveller across. Here the danger has been recognized and a way provided. From then on, it was just an easy walk alongside the Waimakariri River to Klondike Corner. But then it happened. We crossed one of the arms of the Waimakariri River to avoid bush bashing. We had chosen a bad point to cross, and first one, then the other lost their balance, and we were swept down the river. We got to our feet again and made it out of the river drenched. A bit further down, we opened our packs and were glad that most of the contents had been protected by the pack liners. Sometimes the most dangerous points in a journey are not when we are obviously alert to the danger, but when everything seems simple, the difficult parts have already passed, and then we can fall at any point. The next pass I want to mention is Lennox Pass. It's not a major pass to anywhere, just an obscure pass between Earnslaw Creek and the Rees Valley in Otago. We went up Earnslaw Creek before Instagram sent hordes of photo-hungry people up this valley. That's because the snow-covered southern slopes of Mount Earnslaw rise straight from the valley and provide a dramatic backdrop for photographs. As we walked up the Earnslaw Valley, we were surrounded by mountains on all sides. There seemed nowhere to go. But there on the eastern slopes is Lennox Pass, up a stream and a ridge with strange rock formations that seem to stand as sentinels. Often the way forward is not clear, but we can trust the maps and descriptions to lead us on the way. We climbed up to the pass not far from the steep south face of Mount Earnslaw, with avalanches regularly crashing down the steep mountainside of Mount Earnslaw. It was a fascinating spectacle to watch. But when we directed our gaze back to Lennox Pass, we noticed there are several chamois jumping around the snow and rock. I know that they are introduced animals, but here in the mountains they were still quite beautiful. And then we had to cross the fields of hard frozen snow. It was time to get the ice axe out and plug steps to get us up to the mountain and to the pass. This time it was a sense of achievement as we came to the pass, but that's not always so. Sometimes we can look back at our doing and at these transitional moments and see clearly how we made it there. Sometimes we wonder however we got there. Getting down from Lennox Pass was easy and fun. We simply put on our over-trousers, sat on the snow and slid down the slopes. At times it can be that easy to get into a new valley, to continue on our way. We continued to walk down the slopes to the Rees Valley. There was one stream we had to cross that was deeply cut into a gorge. There seemed no way across. We could only get down to the stream opposite a cliff. But our guidebook said that there was a way across. We looked and could not see a way. But according to the guidebook, there must be a way. Finally, I searched behind some trees, and indeed there was a narrow and steep way up the cliff, hidden from view. The guidebook was right after all. How often do we not trust the guide on our way, and yet the path is there? Well, I could go on showing photos of the many passes I crossed, but I hope that you can see how our brief experiences can cause us to reflect about our own life, about God and the world. We can see transition points and also see how they are part of a wider journey, that all sorts of expected and unexpected incidents can occur on the way, that the highlight may not be the pass itself, but something on the overall journey. And just as God is with us wherever we go, so God is with us on the journey of life.